Hello, it's Friday night. It's not Sunday. It's rush hour. You can probably hear the angry beeping of the taxis of Baku through my window. I thought I'd make a start now because exam season's kicking in for my exam board, and I know that this weekend my standardization's going to drop, so I might not have time to do this on Sunday. So 2 weeks today, I will be packed and ready to go to the airport. In a couple of days after that, I will actually have some decent footage, not this mishmash that I'm putting together. But today I have 3 topics. I might not get them all finished today. I'm quite tired. Random animals, weather conditions, and gosh, what was the third one? Language barrier, because somebody asked me about it in a comment. So let's run straight in there with random animals of Bulgaria. Random animals of Bulgaria. I think I mentioned before that the Bulgarian attitude to animals and animals taking care of themselves is very different to us in Britain. Not for everyone, plenty of people in Bulgaria have pets, but if they've got animals they don't want, they just dump them. They drive to other villages. They offload them in cars, in cardboard boxes. They just leave them on the side of the road. There can be anything from puppies to pregnant mothers to old dogs that aren't wanted or aren't any use anymore. And it's really upsetting. And our village, because it's a very populated village and because the people in our village are really kind, tends to get hit by random dog dumps on a fairly regular basis. We do have a village dog. Her name is Ellie. She's about 13. She doesn't want to be anybody's dog. Several well-meaning people have attempted to take her in, and she just leaves again. Everyone feeds her. Everyone loves her. She does exactly as she pleases. If she wants to sit in the middle of the road, the traffic goes round her. But every time I go, there are new random strays there. So Christmas 2022, Chris and I went over for a holiday just to have a week there. And on about the 3rd day we were there, we were coming out of the village cafe and there was Ellie dog, and curled up next to her was this enormous kind of Karakachan collie type thing. So being me, I said, "Hello, dog." And it immediately rolled over, flopped over, like rubbed my tummy, and then followed us to the car. And I realized quite quickly that, yes, it was the size of a small pony, but it was really only a baby. It was a puppy. And I had to leave it there. I had no choice. Later that evening, we came back from our day out. We went back to the cafe, had a couple of drinks. I said to Chris, let's get the stuff out of the back of the car. We'll come back for the car later, in the morning when we've not got alcohol in our systems. And he opened the boot, and this gigantic dog just leapt into the boot and took his pizza and made a run for it. And I said, "Oh, just let it have it. It's hungry." And we got about halfway home and we realized gigantic dog was following us home. Big, smiley, gigantic dog. So me being me, I was like, "Come on then, dog. Come on. It can't come in the house. That's not fair. It's not our dog. It's a stray. We're being unkind to it. Put some food outside, open the workshop. It can sleep in one of the barns." And about 30 seconds later, these 2 great paws went thud on my porch, and this frantic little face was staring in. So I let it in. She had a good few days with us. We had a really good time. She slept all night in our front room. She was no trouble at all. She wandered off the next morning. We thought that was the last we were going to see of her. We went out for a couple of hours. We came back and she was sitting on the porch steps, looking very sheepish, like, "I'm really sorry. I think you're very nice, and I've come to live with you." And of course, the problem was we were going home in 3 days. So nobody in the village could help me. The animal lovers in the village, they're lovely people, but they've all got animals of their own, commitments, jobs, work. You can't expect somebody to take in a giant puppy. And I cried and I cried and I cried for this dog because all week we kept saying, "This is a really good dog." She was perfectly clean in the house, really obedient, very, very, very funny, a proper little trickster. Everywhere I went, she came with me. If she went into another room, every now and again, you'd look and she'd be going, round the door, checking you were still there. She was brilliant. And by the time it got to the day before we were leaving, I just didn't know what to do. And I literally could not stop crying. I contacted a rescue called Santa Paws, and the lady there, Justine, she said, we're rammed, we're absolutely full, but I'm not going to be able to stop thinking about this dog. Let me see what I can do. And then I didn't hear from her again for like 18 hours. And then she messaged me again and she said, can you get the dog to Pleven? Only by the time she said that, I was the worst person in the entire world because I was halfway to Bucharest to catch my flight back to the UK, having left this dog by the village bins where I'd found it in the first place with a big pile of food and a bone to chew on. And I was crying nonstop all the way to Bucharest. And she was just so good. She was like, okay, I know how you feel. I can't stop thinking about the dog either. If you can get someone to get it to the rescue, I'll take it in. If you can't, I will drive over to your village on Saturday and I will drive up and down the high street until I can find it, and then I will take it. So my friends, James and Tina, dog napped the dog and drove it all the way to Pleven for me. And Justine just took her straight in. She said, she's a good dog. She's trained. She can come in the house. And she was adopted within a week. And now she's called Rosie now. And she is living in rural Yorkshire. She's living the best life a dog could ever live. And that's because of Santa Paws. If I had left her in the village, people wouldn't have been unkind to her. They would have thrown her food. They would have let her wander around. But that's no life for a dog, especially not a puppy, because she didn't have any boundaries. She was always jumping up at people and things because she was excited. And she was becoming a nuisance. So I can't thank them enough. And what I've put together is some photos of my super, now Rosie, before when we had her, and now when she's in Yorkshire. And the people who have adopted from Santa Paws, some of them have very kindly sent me photos of their dogs before and after adoption. So the message here is adopt, don't shop. There's a lot of stray animals around the world and they need you. Enjoy. Random animals of Bulgaria. The first thing you'll find is if you go to live in Bulgaria, you will have a dog or a cat or a couple of pine martens running across your garden. Who knows? I feed my house is on a feral cat superhighway. They all hate me, but they don't mind being fed by me. So they see me come out with the cat biscuits. They all make a run for me and they stop very carefully about 10 feet away from me, curse my ancestors and my descendants, and wait for me to go back inside, and then they eat the food. So if you look at, my favourite YouTubers, the ones I watch all the time, Our Little Bulgarian Adventure have got several cats and several dogs. Phoenix family of adopted dogs. The Bournemouth from Bulgaria have adopted dogs. The wonderful Outliers arrived with dogs anyway, and now have more dogs. You can't help it. If you care about animals, you're going to end up with some animals, whether they're feral and you're just feeding them, or whether they move swiftly into your house and into your life. But it's not a problem. There's plenty of them to spare. So the second thing I was going to talk about, which I haven't got any photos of, is language barriers, because like I say, somebody asked me. So let's have a look at that. I don't have any photos or any film of what a language barrier looks like, because when random people in the street, in the supermarket, in shops look at me in absolute horror over my ridiculous blunders with the Bulgarian language, I tend not to stop and film myself. But somebody did ask me how you communicate, what the language is like. I think as English people, British people, we can be very arrogant, and we can assume that everywhere in the world, if we say it loud and slow, they will understand. That is not the case in rural Bulgaria. You might get people who speak English in the cities, in the holiday resorts. You might get some people who speak some English in villages. The older people tend to have been taught Russian along with English, and my Russian, although I've been learning it for months here, is just as bad as my Bulgarian. And some people can speak some of another language. There's a man in our village who speaks about 6 or 7 languages. He's completely self-taught. But the biggest blessing in my village, language-wise, is Carrie, who is my good friend, and happens to be a translator and speaks incredibly fluent English. And she is a lifesaver. She takes me all over the place to do all my paperwork and things. And I just smile and nod and sign the bits of paper she gives me. And I always say to her, for all I know, you could own my kidneys right now. I have no idea. I can't read what you're making me sign. But if it wasn't for her, I do not know what I would do. The good thing about Bulgarians is that many of them do speak with their entire bodies, which makes it easier to understand what they are saying if you can catch some words. So I know some words. I can count. I can say hello and goodbye. I can ask how much. I can ask really simple phrases. I can order chicken and chips with some cheese on top and beer. And I do try, but it is a really complex language. And sometimes my pronunciation is so shocking that I will ask somebody something or tell them something, and they just look at me. I have a Bulgarian student here who's an absolute delight, and every time I try to speak to her in Bulgarian, she just goes, she gave me all these Martinitzes today. And in my last job, there was a Bulgarian teacher there, and again, if I went beyond, hi, how are you? She just patted my arm and said, you're doing very well. I have been known to go into the village shop and shout health instead of hello. I once bought something and said hello instead of thank you. I'm not brilliant. But I get by because I understand a lot more than I can say. So I can tell what people are saying to me. And there is the glory of Google Translate, which is not always a winner because it translates things really strange, but it's enough if you keep to short phrases. So last summer we were going and using up our talon for the winery from our grapes. And we went to the winery, which it took us 3 or 4 times to find it. But we got there in the end, and I went into the office and I said, Kolko? Showed her my talon. Basically, how much have I got left? She said, Chettery Dissette. No, Awesome Dissette, 80. So I said, okay. I said, Chettery Dissette Chardonnay, Chettery Dissette Sauvignon, duh. And she said, I could tell what she said. She said, do you have bottles? And I said, da. And I turned around to tell Chris to go and get the bottles out of the car. And no word of a lie, he was looking at me like I was the second coming. He was going, well done, darling. But I'd literally just said I wanted 40 litres of Chardonnay and 40 litres of Sauvignon. And then at the end of that conversation, I said, Colco Paris, how much money? And she said, Awesome Dissette. and I gave her the money. But since then, Chris says to anyone, because everyone talks to Chris because he's a man, and every time anyone speaks to him, he just goes, talk to her. She knows the language. I don't. I really don't know the language. And one of my aims is the lady of the Phoenix family has sent me a link to an app where you can learn Bulgarian because Duolingo doesn't offer it. Not that Duolingo is much good for anything because in Russian now, I'm just fixated on crocodiles. It's finally teaching me useful things like the difference between we, she, he, you, have, want, etc. And all I've got in my head is nash crocodile, сейчас в theatre. Our crocodile is at the theatre now. I don't know why it thought I would need to know that, but it's stuck in my head better than anything else. Anyway, so yeah, I would really recommend if you come into Bulgaria, learn the basics. Like I say, in the holiday places, they can speak English, some of them, but they appreciate the fact that you're trying. And in the villages, you'll be lucky. You'll be very lucky if you get people who can speak more than just a smattering of English. So the basics of numbers, hello, goodbye, please, thank you, a few food things, chleb, bread, moloko, milk, those kind of things come in really handy. I don't know if moloko is just Russian, actually. I'm not sure. Anyway, I don't have any videos of me failing terribly to speak Bulgarian. So instead, I'm going to drop in some photos and a video of my house before I bought it, just to show you the difference between a house you buy for 11,000 lev and a house you buy for about 27,000 lev.
That's where your toilet's going to be. Your sink, shower, the drain for the shower. That's the wall.
I'm sorry about the little blurry bits on that video with the green things. It'd been on Davey's phone for a very long time when he sent it to me, because that was when the house was first bought by the couple who had it before me. They never lived in it. They bought the swimming pool house instead. So the final topic is Bulgarian weather, because that's the first thing that everybody asks. It's the first thing that everyone asks here as well. Ooh, what's the weather like? Is it sunny all the time? Well, in Baku, it's not. It is for quite a long period of the year, but it's the 1st of March today, and there's still a definite nip in the air. It did stay in the 20s last year until the middle of November, but that's global warming. So the weather changes all the time in Bulgaria. In June, you get very, very heavy rains, but you need them for your fertile garden. From July on till about maybe October, November, it's warm. July and August is insane. When we were there this year, it was, about 46 degrees one day, generally in the mid-30s to the high 30s. I've been in December and I've walked around in my t-shirt in the garden, even though it's cold in the mornings. I went in February last year. It was -9. Every time I got up to go to the bathroom, I thought this could be it. They will find my frozen corpse on the toilet. And then this year in February, it's been in the late teens, early 20s. We've had Bulgaria's had quite heavy snowfall a couple of times this year. There was hardly any last year, but be prepared for change. The electrical storms have to be seen to be believed. The weather is incredible. So just to finish off, I want to send you some pictures of the beauties of my village in different weather.